My daughter asked me to disappear from her wedding, so I took the funding with me. That line's been echoing in my head for weeks. I can't tell if it makes me the villain, the fool, or finally, just a man who'd had enough. I'm 52 years old, father of one, owner of a small, steady export business in upstate New York. Not flashy, not rich by tech standards, but I've never missed a mortgage payment, never taken a dollar I didn't earn. I raised my daughter, Emily, mostly on my own. Her mother, well, she left when Emily was 6. Ran off with a man she met during a so-called yoga retreat in Santorini. The guy's name was Rick. Yeah, that Rick. The one who, 18 years later, would be standing at the altar with my daughter, holding her arm as he walked her down the aisle. Not me. Not the man who raised her. Who covered her therapy, her tuition, her phone bill even after she graduated. That honor, the most symbolic act of fatherhood there is, went to the man who disappeared before her 7th birthday. I didn't find out directly, of course. That would have been too dignified. No, I found out because my brother's wife ran into one of Emily's friends at a cafe. Casual conversation. We're all so excited for the wedding, she said. Oh, the girl blinked. I thought she wasn't inviting that side of the family. That side. As in me. Laura. Our son Ryan. The only people who ever stayed. At first, I thought, miscommunication. Misquote. Maybe the girl was confused. Maybe Emily had planned something small, intimate, and just hadn't finalized the guest list. But then I called the wedding planner to confirm my brother's attendance. Simple ask. 1 seat. The man said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I need the bride's approval for any updates to the guest list." My name wasn't even on it. Not mine. Not Laura's. Not even Ryan's. But Rick? His name was listed not just as a guest, but as father of the bride. I remember staring at the email, fingers frozen over the keyboard, unable to even breathe. The planner had forwarded me the finalized list by accident, after I pushed a little too hard on the phone. I clicked on the document. There it was. Bolded. Rick Edwards, father of the bride. And next to that, a little section. Security notes. No admittance to Laura or David, father. Enforced discreetly. Enforced discreetly. I paid $47,000 in deposits for a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. For a venue I'd never step foot in. For food I'd never taste. Guests I'd never greet. A daughter I wouldn't even be permitted to hug. I stood up from my desk that night and walked to the living room, where Laura was folding laundry. I handed her my phone, said nothing. She scrolled. Paused. Scrolled more. Her hand stopped. Then she looked at me with this quiet, devastated whisper. Is this real? All I could say was, I think she hates me. That night, I drank for the first time in 4 years. Poured myself a bourbon, neat. Then another. The burn in my throat was preferable to the one in my chest. Because what do you do when the person you sacrificed your life for looks you in the face and replaces you? Emily and I weren't perfect. God knows we fought. She hated my travel schedule when she was a teen, hated Laura for stealing my attention, even though Laura never tried to play mom. Just tried to be there. But I always thought, despite it all, that we had something unbreakable. That was before I saw the RSVP list with Rick's name printed in bold. That was before I saw the security order to keep me out. That was before I became just the checkbook. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I didn't even check my email. Instead, I sat down with a legal pad and made a list. Not a list of revenge. A list of ownership. Everything I'd paid for. Venue, catering, floral design, the string quartet, the limo service, even the hotel blocks for out-of-town guests. All of it was in my name. All of it tied to my credit card, my contracts, my email. And then I made one more list. The phone numbers for every single vendor. I didn't make a scene. Didn't threaten or rant. I just picked up the phone and said what I needed to say. Hi, this is David. I'd like to cancel our reservation. Yes, I understand the cancellation fee. No, the event will not be rescheduled. One by one, I pulled the thread. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone in Emily's camp would call. Ask if something was wrong. Check in. They didn't. Not that day. Not the next. So I kept dialing. The photographer sounded surprised but not devastated. Apparently, Emily had been extremely particular. The caterer said she was difficult to work with. The florist? Oh, thank God, she muttered, before composing herself. We'll process the refund immediately. By Friday, the entire wedding was undone. Quietly. legally, neatly, and not a single soul had noticed. But they would. They'd notice soon. Here's part one of the serialized story, written in Jack's first-person dramatic voice, just as you requested. 1. My daughter asked me to disappear from her wedding, so I took the funding with me. That line's been echoing in my head for weeks. I can't tell if it makes me the villain, the fool, or finally, just a man who'd had enough. I'm 52 years old, father of one, owner of a small, steady export business in upstate New York. Not flashy, not rich by tech standards, but I've never missed a mortgage payment, never taken a dollar I didn't earn. I raised my daughter, Emily, mostly on my own. Her mother, well, she left when Emily was 6. Ran off with a man she met during a so-called yoga retreat in Santorini. The guy's name was Rick. Yeah, that Rick. The one who, 18 years later, would be standing at the altar with my daughter, holding her arm as he walked her down the aisle. Not me. Not the man who raised her. Who covered her therapy, her tuition, her phone bill even after she graduated. That honor, the most symbolic act of fatherhood there is, went to the man who disappeared before her 7th birthday. I didn't find out directly, of course. That would have been too dignified. No, I found out because my brother's wife ran into one of Emily's friends at a cafe. Casual conversation. We're all so excited for the wedding, she said. Oh, the girl blinked. I thought she wasn't inviting that side of the family. That side. As in me. Laura. Our son Ryan. The only people who ever stayed. At first, I thought, miscommunication. Misquote. Maybe the girl was confused. Maybe Emily had planned something small, intimate, and just hadn't finalized the guest list. But then I called the wedding planner to confirm my brother's attendance. Simple ask. 1 seat. The man said, Sir, I'm sorry. I need the bride's approval for any updates to the guest list. My name wasn't even on it. Not mine. Not Laura's. Not even Ryan's. But Rick? His name was listed not just as a guest, but as father of the bride. I remember staring at the email, fingers frozen over the keyboard, unable to even breathe. The planner had forwarded me the finalized list by accident, after I pushed a little too hard on the phone. I clicked on the document. There it was. Bolded. Rick Edwards, father of the bride. And next to that, a little section. Security notes. No admittance to Laura or David, father. Enforced discreetly. Enforced discreetly. I paid $47,000 in deposits for a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. For a venue I'd never step foot in. For food I'd never taste. Guests I'd never greet. A daughter I wouldn't even be permitted to hug. I stood up from my desk that night and walked to the living room, where Laura was folding laundry. I handed her my phone, said nothing. She scrolled. Paused. Scrolled more. Her hand stopped. Then she looked at me with this quiet, devastated whisper. Is this real? All I could say was, I think she hates me. That night, I drank for the first time in 4 years. Poured myself a bourbon, neat. Then another. The burn in my throat was preferable to the one in my chest. Because what do you do when the person you sacrificed your life for looks you in the face and replaces you? Emily and I weren't perfect. God knows we fought. She hated my travel schedule when she was a teen, hated Laura for stealing my attention, even though Laura never tried to play mom. Just tried to be there. But I always thought, despite it all, that we had something unbreakable. That was before I saw the RSVP list with Rick's name printed in bold. That was before I saw the security order to keep me out. That was before I became just the checkbook. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I didn't even check my email. Instead, I sat down with a legal pad and made a list. Not a list of revenge. A list of ownership. Everything I'd paid for. Venue, catering, floral design, the string quartet, the limo service, even the hotel blocks for out-of-town guests. All of it was in my name. All of it tied to my credit card, my contracts, my email. And then I made one more list, the phone numbers for every single vendor. I didn't make a scene, didn't threaten or rant. I just picked up the phone and said what I needed to say. Hi, this is David. I'd like to cancel our reservation. Yes, I understand the cancellation fee. No, the event will not be rescheduled. One by one, I pulled the thread. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone in Emily's camp would call. Ask if something was wrong. Check in. They didn't. Not that day. Not the next. So I kept dialing. The photographer sounded surprised but not devastated. Apparently, Emily had been extremely particular. The caterer said she was difficult to work with. The florist? Oh, thank God, she muttered, before composing herself. We'll process the refund immediately. By Friday, the entire wedding was undone. Quietly, legally, neatly, and not a single soul had noticed. But they would. They'd notice soon. The first message came Saturday morning. A single text from Emily, short and sweet, the kind of tone you'd expect from someone asking for a ride to the airport. Hey, venue said the booking's gone? What's going on? No, hi Dad. No, are you okay? Just confusion. Mild annoyance. Like her Amazon package didn't show up on time. I stared at it for a long time before I replied. Just 2 words. Ask Rick. And that was it. The fuse had been lit. I left my phone on the kitchen counter and went for a walk. No earbuds, no destination. Just kept walking. The air was still. That eerie kind of quiet that wraps itself around you when something is about to crack wide open. Like nature was holding its breath. By the time I got back, my phone was lit up like a Christmas tree. 13 missed calls. 8 voicemails. Dozens of texts. Most were from Emily. A few from unknown numbers. Probably wedding planner. Maybe her friends. One from my mother. What did you do? Emily's hysterical. Please call me. But one stood out. Rick. That bastard had the gall to text me. You're ruining her day out of spite. Grow up, man. I let out a dry laugh. Not bitter. Not angry. Just tired. Like a man who finally stopped holding up a house no one wanted to live in. For a second, I almost wrote back. But what could I say? Grow up. I'd grown up at 32 when I found myself single, broke, and raising a daughter who cried herself to sleep asking why mommy never called. I grew up when I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. When I canceled dates, vacations, entire chunks of my life to be home for parent-teacher meetings she didn't even remember. But now I was the child. The next text was the one that brought it all full circle. Emily again. I'm fixing this. Don't talk to anyone else. I'll call you tonight. And for the first time, I realized she still thought I was bluffing. She thought this was a tantrum, a scare tactic, like I'd cancel everything just to watch her beg, and then swoop in at the last second to save the day and be the hero. But I wasn't trying to save anyone. I was done. She called around 9 that night. I answered on the second ring. Her voice was clipped, breathless. Why are you doing this? She snapped. This isn't okay. I stayed silent. You're humiliating me, she continued. Do you have any idea what this looks like? Now I spoke. Calm. Even. I know exactly what it looks like, I said. It looks like a man who paid for a wedding he wasn't invited to, who found out the man that abandoned his family is walking his daughter down the aisle while he waits outside like an Uber driver. There was silence on the line. Then sharp. You don't understand the dynamics. I almost laughed. You mean the dynamic where I pay and Rick plays dad for a day? That dynamic? She sighed. Look, you and I haven't always had the easiest. Emily. I cut in. I read the security instructions. Silence again. You told them to keep me out. I continued. You call me toxic, controlling, unstable. You wrote that down. In black and white. That wasn't meant for you to see, she said, voice suddenly small. But you meant it, I replied. You didn't want me there. You wanted my money. My silence. My absence. Her breath hitched. I never said I didn't want you in my life. No, I said. You just didn't want me in the photos. That one landed. I heard it. The kind of pause that swallows sound. A delayed slap across the phone line. I didn't think you'd react like this, she whispered. And there it was. The truth. She didn't think I'd do it. Because I never had before. I was always the man who swallowed his pride. The man who bailed her out. Paid her rent. Apologized first. Caved first. Always the first to say, it's okay. But it wasn't okay. Not anymore. Do you know the last time we talked about anything that wasn't about money? I asked. Do you even know my birthday? More silence. Dad, please. Don't make this worse. I nodded, even though she couldn't see. I'm not making it worse, I said. I'm just not fixing it anymore. And then I hung up. For the first time in 25 years, I chose me. And I knew, in that moment, the real storm hadn't even started yet. It started with a Facebook post. A blurry photo taken through the locked gate of the venue. Guests standing outside in full formal wear, some shielding their eyes from the sun, others checking their phones with confused expressions. The caption read, apparently the venue's been canceled? Anyone know what's going on? Hashtag Emily and Matt. By noon, 3 more photos appeared. One of a catering truck that never got the signal to turn around, parked awkwardly at the curb. Another of a flower arrangement sitting lonely on the sidewalk. And one of Matt, the groom, pacing near the entrance with his jacket off and his tie hanging loose. Phone pressed so hard to his ear, it looked like he might crush it. I didn't need to guess who he was calling. At 12:36 p.m., I got the first voicemail from him. "David, we need to talk. This isn't the time for whatever this is. You're ruining Emily's life. Just call me back, please." I didn't. And he called again. And again. At 1:10 p.m., Emily left a voicemail that I still haven't deleted. Not because it meant anything, but because of how empty it was. "You did this on purpose. I don't even care about the money. I care about what you've done to me. You've embarrassed me. Humiliated me. What kind of father does that to his daughter?" I almost replied. Almost. But I didn't. Because every word she said proved just how far gone she was. She didn't say she was sorry. Didn't say she'd made a mistake. Didn't ask why I did what I did. Just blame. Just shame. Just the same script I'd heard since she was 16. Laura sat beside me on the couch that day, holding my hand like I was the one being walked down the aisle. She didn't say a word. Just rubbed her thumb across my knuckles like she was grounding me to the moment. We watched the disaster unfold in real time. The guests trickling away. The DJ showing up, confused, arguing with the planner. The florist trying to salvage what was left of the arrangements. A cousin live streaming the chaos until someone made her shut it off. By 2 p.m., it was clear the wedding was dead in the water. But the final blow came at 2:47 p.m. A single video clip posted to TikTok by one of Emily's college friends. Emily, standing in the middle of the street in her dress, hair a mess, mascara running, screaming at the top of her lungs. "My father did this. He destroyed everything." You can hear someone in the background whisper, "Wait, her dad? I thought he wasn't invited?" And that's when it started to shift. The narrative. Up until then, I'd expected to be the villain. The absent father. The bitter ex. The man who blew up his daughter's wedding because of ego. But now people were asking questions. One of Emily's friends commented, "Wasn't he paying for the whole thing though?" Another wrote, "Y'all, if someone paid for my wedding and I uninvited them, I'd be worried too." She messed around and found out. Within an hour, the comments exploded. Someone dug up an old Instagram post where Emily thanked me for being the rock behind everything. Dated 3 months ago. Another person posted a screenshot of Emily's own RSVP page, which listed Rick as father of the bride and made no mention of me. By the time the sun started to set, the internet had done what it always does, picked a side. And for once, it wasn't hers. I wasn't watching for validation. I wasn't scrolling for pity. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good, finally, to be seen. To have people say what I'd been screaming into the void for years. How do you cut out your own dad and still expect him to pay? The audacity of this girl. She treated him like an ATM, and he closed the account. I poured myself a drink. Just one. Sat on the balcony with Laura and watched the last light disappear over the rooftops. And somewhere in the middle of that silence, my phone buzzed again. A new message. From Rick. "You had your say. Mine's coming." I stared at it for a second, then deleted it. Because Rick wasn't a threat. He was just the ghost of a man who ran, and now had to stand in the ashes of what I refused to carry anymore. The day ended not with fury, but with clarity. I didn't ruin her wedding. I just finally stopped financing the lie. The doorbell rang the next morning, sharp and insistent. Not the lazy, double-press kind that says, "I'm here if you're around," but a full, angry hand on the buzzer. Laura was already dressed. She glanced at me from across the kitchen island, her spoon hovering over her yogurt. That's not Amazon. I got up, walked to the door, and checked the peephole. It was Emily, still in her wedding dress. Makeup smeared, eyes puffy, barefoot. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched her. She rang again, then leaned close to the camera. "Dad, I know you're in there. I need to talk." She sounded broken, but it wasn't sorrow. It wasn't remorse. It was panic, not over what she'd done, but over what it had cost her. I buzzed her in. Laura didn't say a word as I opened the door, just walked into the living room and sat, hands folded, bracing. Emily stepped inside like a gust of bad weather. White silk dragging behind her, mascara streaked in jagged rivers, bouquet still clutched in one trembling hand like she'd forgotten to let it go. She looked around, confused, like she didn't recognize the home I'd paid for, the woman who helped raise her, or the silence waiting to swallow her whole. I leaned against the wall. I hope you didn't walk here in that, I said quietly. She blinked. Her voice came out raw. You really did it. You really canceled everything. I didn't respond. Her eyes narrowed. Why? I pushed off the wall and walked past her to the kitchen. Poured myself some coffee. You asked me to stay away, I said simply. I did. You didn't have to destroy the wedding, she snapped, spinning to follow me. I turned slowly. Emily, I didn't destroy it. I just stopped pretending it was mine to support. You humiliated me, she shouted, voice cracking. Do you have any idea how that felt? And I felt it. That old reflex, the one where I cave. Where I apologize just to make the temperature in the room drop. Where I say you're right, and I'm sorry, and let's move on. But I didn't. Instead, I walked to the window and looked out at the street, quiet and unassuming like it always was on a Sunday morning. Do you know how it felt to read an RSVP list with your name on it next to his? After everything? She was quiet. I turned back to her. You could have invited us both, I said. You could have said, Dad, this is complicated, but I want you both there. You didn't. You wouldn't have come if he was there. You're right, I nodded. I wouldn't have, but I would have respected the honesty. I would have bowed out with grace, paid my part, and kept my distance. But you didn't give me that chance. You had the planner put me on a list like I was a threat. I didn't want drama. No, I said. You didn't want a witness. You wanted the image, the clean, perfect bride with the fairy tale walk down the aisle. No baggage. No broken history. No man who actually raised you to cloud the picture. Her jaw tightened. And now, I added, you want me to what? Apologize for stepping away from a stage you told me I wasn't welcome on. She dropped the bouquet, right onto the hardwood floor. Flowers scattered, stems snapping under the weight. I didn't think you'd actually do it, she said quietly. There it was. The truth. As ugly and clear as day. I never think you'll do anything, she continued. Because you never do. You always just swallow it. She was crying now, the way you cry when your world doesn't bend the way it used to. I didn't move to comfort her. Not because I didn't love her, but because she needed to stand in it. Really stand in it. You were supposed to fight for me, she whispered. Not sabotage me. I felt the wind leave me. I stepped forward. One step. Two. Emily, I said, voice low, steady. For 25 years, I have fought for you. I fought to keep a roof over your head. I fought to get you into college when your grades tanked. I fought to pay for rehab. Twice. I fought to keep you out of jail when you crashed my car drunk. Her eyes widened. And I fought to keep this family from collapsing under the weight of your resentment. I fought, Emily, every damn day. And now you want to call this boundary sabotage? She was shaking. Laura stood, quietly, walked over, not to me, to the front door. I think, Laura said gently, this conversation is done for now. Emily turned to her, stunned. You're kicking me out. Laura didn't flinch. I'm asking you to leave before you say something you can't take back. I already did that, Emily whispered. And I knew. She meant the text. The exclusion. The whole thing. But it was too late. She walked to the door without another word. Opened it. Paused in the frame. I don't know how we come back from this, she said, not angry now. Just hollow. I didn't reply. And she left. The door clicked shut behind her. And I stood there, surrounded by silence. Not peace. Not yet. But something that felt a little like it. Something that felt like the beginning of the end. Or maybe the beginning of something else entirely. I didn't hear from her for 4 days. No texts. No calls. No passive-aggressive social media posts or guilt-laced voicemails. Nothing. Just radio silence. And for once, I didn't chase it. I went to work. Ate my lunch on the loading dock in the back of the warehouse like I used to before things got complicated. I answered emails. Laughed with my staff. Drank coffee that tasted like burnt pennies but warmed my hands in the morning. It was like I'd stepped out of a storm I didn't know I'd been standing in. But silence doesn't last forever. On the 5th day, I got an email. From my parents. Subject line. We need to talk about what happened. I opened it slowly. And of course, they weren't asking about what happened to me. They were asking what I'd done. Emily came to us in tears. She said you deliberately sabotaged her wedding. That she begged you to stop, and you refused. That Laura encouraged you. We know you've been under stress, but this isn't the man we raised. We're asking you to come over. Please. Let's fix this before it breaks everyone apart. No mention of the RSVP list. No mention of the months of planning. No hint that they even tried to hear my side. It was like I'd lit a match and burned their granddaughter's life to the ground, all because I couldn't let go of my pride. I read it twice. Then I closed my laptop. Later that night, I sat with Laura in the living room, lights low, a documentary playing in the background, and read her the email out loud. She listened without interrupting, her face calm but unreadable. When I finished, she asked one question. Do they know what she wrote to the planner? No. Do they know what Rick said to you? No. She exhaled slowly. Then don't go. And that was it. Because Laura knew what they were asking wasn't a reconciliation, it was a surrender. A quiet little ceremony where I'd bow my head and say I overreacted, and they'd say we forgive you, and everything would be swept under the rug like it never happened. But it happened, and I wasn't going to pretend it didn't. 2 days later, Emily posted a photo. Not of the wedding. There weren't any. It was a pose shot in front of a courthouse, her and Matt holding a marriage certificate with stiff smiles, and that brittle, forced joy you see in people who've just taken a loss they're trying to spin. The caption read, "Married to the love of my life. Some things don't need an audience." The comments were full of hearts and congratulations. But a few stuck out. Weren't you supposed to have a big wedding? Wait, where was the venue? I heard it got canceled last minute. No response from her. The next day, I got a voicemail from Matt. He sounded tired. Not angry, just worn out. David, I don't know what the hell happened between you and Emily, but she's not the same. She's been crying every day. Won't talk to anyone. I'm trying to support her, but man, this isn't what I thought marriage was going to be. I don't want to be in the middle of a war, okay? Just maybe reach out. I didn't save it. Didn't respond. Because Matt, despite his wide-eyed, jawline sincerity, had stood there and watched her do it. Watched her erase me. Watched her tell the planner to blacklist my name. Watched her lie to her friends, to our family, to herself. Maybe now he was seeing it. Maybe he wasn't. But I wasn't throwing out lifelines anymore. That night, Laura and I sat on the patio. I poured us each a glass of wine. The air was warm and quiet, cicadas buzzing softly in the trees. She asked, "Do you think she regrets it?" I stared into my glass. Swirled at once. I think she regrets the consequences, not the choice. Do you think she'll come around? I sighed. I think, I said, for the first time in her life, she might have to. And that, more than the cancellation, more than the internet noise or family fallout, might be what broke her open. Because when you build your life on the idea that dad will always show up, always pay up, always smile and take it, you never expect to find the locks changed when you try the door again. It was a Tuesday when she showed up again. No warning, no call, just a knock at the door around 8 p.m., sharp and soft, like she didn't know whether she wanted to be let in or not. Laura and I were watching reruns. The kind where you already know the ending but keep watching anyway, like muscle memory for comfort. I opened the door. There she was, dressed normal this time. Jeans, hoodie, hair pulled back in a tight bun. No makeup, no mascara streak drama. Just Emily, my daughter. She looked smaller than I remembered, like life had been pressing down on her ever since that day outside the venue, and she hadn't been able to stand up straight since. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I nodded and stepped aside. Laura stood from the couch, gave Emily a gentle, unreadable glance, then disappeared into the kitchen. She knew this was mine to carry. Emily sat at the edge of the couch like it wasn't hers anymore, like everything in the house had grown a little unfamiliar. She didn't look at me when she spoke. "I saw a therapist yesterday." I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah." She nodded, still not looking at me. "She said I have unresolved parental anger," she said, almost like she was quoting someone else's diagnosis. "Said I'm carrying stuff that never got processed. And you agree with that?" She shrugged. "I don't know. I guess. I mean, Mom left. That messed me up. But I blamed you. For staying. For moving on. For not being who I needed." I sat across from her, my arms folded. "Emily, I tried. I did the best I could. I wasn't perfect. But I stayed." She finally looked at me. "I know. That landed heavier than I expected. I just didn't want to need you anymore," she said. "It made me feel weak. Like you always had control." I sighed. It wasn't about control. It was about stability. "I gave everything I had so you could stand on your own 2 feet." "Yeah," she whispered. "And then I used that to push you away." Silence stretched between us, the air heavy with everything we hadn't said for years. Then she reached into her bag, pulled out an envelope, slid it across the coffee table toward me. What's this? I talked to the vendors. The ones that would talk to me, anyway. I asked for copies of the invoices. The money you lost? I wrote down every cent. It's not everything, but it's close. I want to pay you back. I didn't touch the envelope. Emily, I need to, she said, cutting me off. Not for you. For me. I need to know I can make things right without asking you to save me. I stared at her. This girl, this woman, who once threw a hairdryer at a teacher in 8th grade, who slammed doors and screamed that I was ruining her life when I told her she couldn't go to a party, now wanted to pay me back for a wedding she used as a weapon. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or just sit quietly and let the moment be what it was. You don't owe me money, I said eventually. You owe me honesty. You owe me respect. You owe me a place in your life that doesn't come with conditions. She nodded slowly. I can do that, she said. I don't know if I can undo all of it, but I can start. Another silence. Not heavy this time. Just still. Matt said you've been distant, I said. Her face twisted into something bitter and sad. We're not great right now. I waited. He didn't know what he was signing up for, she continued. He thought I was just hurt by the divorce. He didn't realize I'd never stopped bleeding. I closed my eyes for a moment, let those words settle. Never stopped bleeding. Neither had I. I can't fix your marriage, I said. But I can still be your dad. If you let me. Her eyes met mine. I want that, she said. And for the first time since all this began, I believed her. She stayed for dinner that night. Not planned. Not ceremonial. Just leftovers reheated in the microwave, spaghetti and garlic bread, plus a salad that had already wilted a little at the edges. But she didn't complain. She sat at the kitchen table beside Laura, picking at the plate like she didn't know if she deserved to be fed. Like being welcome at this table wasn't a default anymore. It was something that had to be earned back. I watched them from the sink, rinsing off a plate. Laura said, "You want more bread?" Emily looked up. "No, thank you. This is perfect." Those words, "thank you," they hit harder than they should have. Not because she hadn't said them before, but because this time, I believed she meant it. After dinner, Emily stood awkwardly in the entryway, clutching her bag like she wasn't sure how to say goodbye. She finally asked, "Can I come by again? Like, not to fix anything, just to be here?" I nodded. "You don't need a reason to visit." That broke something in her. Just a little. She leaned in, hugged me. It was stiff at first. Careful. Like hugging a stranger she used to know. But then her arms tightened. Her fingers curled into the fabric of my shirt, and she pressed her cheek to my chest like she used to when she was 5 and had nightmares about monsters under the bed. And I held her. Because for all the fire and failure between us, this was still my daughter. No amount of betrayal, distance, or silence could change that. When she pulled back, she looked up at me and whispered, "I don't expect things to go back to the way they were." I smiled faintly. "Neither do I." She nodded. "But I want something new. If you'll have me." That was the moment. Not the wedding. Not the cancellation. Not even the therapy or the envelope full of numbers. This, her standing at my front door, asking if I'd still claim her, not as the version of herself she tried to sell the world, but as the flawed, fractured woman she actually was. This was the real beginning. And I knew what it cost her to say it. Later that night, after she left, Laura and I sat in the quiet. She looked over at me and said, "You know she'll stumble again, right?" "I know. And this time, you can't be the safety net." "I won't be." "Then what will you be?" I thought about that. Thought long and hard. Then I said, "Her witness." And Laura nodded. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do for someone you love isn't to fix their fall. It's to stay in the room when they finally hit the ground and still call them yours. A week later, she brought me coffee. Nothing fancy. Just a cardboard cup from the diner we used to visit after soccer games when she was 12. Back when life was simpler and apologies came with ice cream and movie nights, not years of silence and therapy bills. She handed it to me like it was a peace offering. No grand speech. No dramatic pause. Just, "I thought you'd like this." I did. We sat in my office at the warehouse, the same one where I'd once hidden for 3 straight days after reading the guest list that shut me out. The walls were lined with old invoices, maps of trade routes, and photos of cargo shipments no one else cared about. But now, the space felt different. Less like a bunker, more like a bridge. She sat across from me, legs crossed, her fingers fidgeting with a ring on her thumb. So, she said, voice light, I told the therapist about the wedding. I raised an eyebrow. How'd that go? She said I had some narcissistic defense mechanisms. That I've spent so long trying to be in control of the story, I forgot how to be a character in it. I nodded. Sounds about right. She smirked. She also said I weaponized my pain. Used it like a shield and a sword. She sounds sharp. Emily looked at me. Eyes clear. Voice even. She asked what I'd do if you never forgave me. That caught me off guard. What did you say? I said then I'd deserve it. But I'd still keep showing up. I didn't respond right away. Just let the moment breathe. And then I said the truth. I already forgave you, Emily. I just stopped trusting you. She nodded slowly. That's fair. And it was. Because forgiveness doesn't mean access. It doesn't mean letting the person who hurt you re-enter your life without earning it. Forgiveness is about letting go of the blade you've been holding against your own throat, not handing it back to the person who cut you. I want to rebuild, she said. No expectations. No shortcuts. Just start from where we are. I leaned back in my chair. Studied her. Not as my daughter. Not as the broken bride. Just as a human being. A complicated, beautiful, bruised soul trying to come home. And for the first time in a long time, I saw someone worth fighting with, not just for. You come by Thursday, I said. We'll eat something unhealthy. Watch something dumb. You bring the wine. She smiled. Deal. As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. Oh, and Dad. Yeah. Thanks for not showing up that day. I blinked. You're thanking me for missing your wedding? I'm thanking you, she said, for not letting me rewrite the story while you still had a pen in your hand. She left, and I sat in the quiet, not with regret, not even relief, but something rarer than both. Closure. It's been 3 months. The texts are regular now. A meme here, a photo there. Nothing heavy, nothing forced. Just the quiet rhythm of two people relearning how to speak to each other without stepping on landmines. She comes by most Thursdays. We watch terrible movies and eat greasy takeout, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, she lets her guard down long enough for me to see the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest during thunderstorms. She hasn't brought up Rick again. Neither have I. Some doors, once closed, stay closed for good. Not out of bitterness, just survival. Matt's still in the picture, but their marriage is adjusting. You can tell. There's a tension under the surface, like two people trying to live inside the same apology. They haven't asked for help, and I haven't offered. That's their road to walk. As for the money, she's been sending checks. Small ones. Sometimes with a sticky note. One step closer, or interest included. I haven't cashed a single one. They sit in a drawer in my office, beneath a stack of old Father's Day cards and a faded photo of us at the beach when she was 6. Her front tooth missing. Her arms around my neck. Her smile so wide it still makes my heart ache. Some debts are better paid in presents, not paper. And she's paying it. In full. The internet forgot the wedding. People moved on. That's how these things go. But for me, the memory isn't some viral headline or Reddit drama. It's the scar that proves I finally stood up for myself. It's the moment I said, you don't get to use my love like a credit card with no limit. It's the day I stopped being an accessory in someone else's fantasy and started living in my own truth. Do I wish it had gone differently? Of course. I wish she'd chosen honesty from the start. I wish I hadn't had to draw blood to draw a boundary. But if that's what it took to break the cycle, to teach her, finally, that love isn't about silence or sacrifice or being the family ATM, then I'll take it. Because now she sees me. Not just the wallet. Not the background parent. Not the scapegoat. Me. And that's worth every canceled flower, every ruined dress, every voicemail laced with rage. The wedding never happened. But something more important did. Reckoning. Rebuilding. And for the first time in years, the chance to write a new kind of story. One where both of us finally get to be real. Together.